Hello and welcome to today's edition of Ask the Expert. Today we're talking to Oliver Matz, who is the director of Zurich Dance Academy, and what many people know is that besides being a director of an esteemed ballet academy, he's also an accomplished dancer who performed with the Royal Ballet, Stuttgart Ballet, ABT, La Scala, Berlin State Opera Ballet with many illustrious partners. What people don't know is that at 16 and a half, he went through a harrowing experience that almost ended his dance career. And today we will talk to Oliver about turning obstacles into opportunities for growth. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Sergey.
So tell us about your experience. What happened?
Well, age 16 and a half, as you already mentioned, I had a terrible accident. I broke my tibia and fibia in a spiral fracture. And that's supposed to be, at that time, 1977, a finish for the dance career. And that was actually also the information. And after I got all the surgeries, etc., they found out by stopping so long that I got arthrosis in my left joint.
Arthritis in the joint at the age
yeah,
of 16,
at the age
17?
of 16, 17. That at that time was 17. And I had
Yeah.
at that time already these 3 operations or surgeries to kneel it and to that it grows together. And then the doctor said to me, you know, your joint looks like a joint of a 5 years old man.
Wow.
And you cannot load that with this kind of work what a professional dancer needs to do. You have to stop. So I broke in tears and I thought, okay, that's the end of the world. And then in that hospital there was this so-called situation of being at a crossroad, you know. There was an old man who looked at me and said, when you get this kind of message and you just broke on in tears, and you just get up now, turn the TV on and watch ballet, I think you should go on. You should at least try it. And then it was, you know, that kind of thinking, and then after a while I said, okay, I try it. And then the professor came in and said, okay, you have to leave the hospital. And I said, you know what? You said to me, I stop. I will go on till I realize that I have to stop. I think the microphone was like in it. Then I went to my teacher and I said, I want to go on. So we started, and then I realized that my left joint was completely stiff. I could not stay on one leg. Yeah. Really. So I had to put everything on the other leg. So that means for a right turner means that to face the fact that you have to turn left side. And my teacher said, you learn left side or you stop. So by that time I started to learn to dance everything on the left side. I had to learn all the jumps, all the turns, everything on the left side. So who knows, to learn left-handed writing when you are a right-hand, do you know how what that means for yourself as a let's say 18 years old boy? And meanwhile I had another surgery at the joint, and they said if you go on you have to stop. So I stopped for 1.5 years and I was already forgotten. I finished my school with the best diploma on one leg. And I joined the State Opera House, and the first thing what I did there was Nutcracker, and I could not stay in the Corps de Ballet for 20 minutes in second act because I could not move after. So they took me out, and then I had to stop. And I went to a sanatorium, to a clinic for world sportmen for six months, and they gave me injections and investigation and exams, etc. And I learned how to deal with the fact that you can think several times and to do something. Before I did everything, what I was told, and then try to feel it. And I could find out, or I found out, that the economy of movements and analyzing the movement, and that we created with my teacher together a special method, how to achieve the best result without doing less. So, and after a while we became kind of specialist, and then my joint became more and more better, and we're talking now about a period of 10 years. My last surgery at the joint was 1988, after I danced at the Metropolitan Opera ABT with Susan Jaffe opening of Don Q by Misha Baryshnikov invitation. And these 10 years taught me that one can do everything if one wants and if one has a will. And age of 16, like all boys, I was not so absolutely 100% focused, but I was wild and had energy. And then I learned by that fact that that when you have this 100% will and that you love something and that you have this enormous passion for a profession which you cannot imagine that you would do something else, you go over that obstacle. And when I put this in relation to today, when I see all the kids which have all these, medicine, how to say, medical checks, the medicine now is on a completely different level than 30 years ago. They have these beautiful facilities, they have everything. But sometimes I think if you need a will, then you don't reach something. And sometimes I talk to the student and say, when they come, I cannot do this. And I said, well, you're not talking to the right one.
Yeah. So I think your most important lesson was that, when you truly, truly want something, you will overcome any obstacle to get it.
Yeah, I think when you face the obstacle, I think it's different when teachers or whoever, parents talk to their kids and say, you have to fight, you have to do, you have to, and if it's not coming from the child themselves, that they say, yes, I'm a fighter. But when it comes to the point that there is something where you have to climb up, and it comes by nature or it comes by an accident, then it will be your proof. And I think every kid or every human stays one point or one day in life as a crossroad and has to decide which direction want to take.
So it looks like what you truly learned is that the number one thing that drives any process trying to achieve something is your desire. Without it, anything else will not work, right?
Yeah, desire, passion, and will. The three components.
Yeah, because some even say that obstacles are gifts that are given to us in order to clarify our desires. Because
actually, that's perfect. The perfect sentence. I couldn't impress it better than you.
Yeah. So, and also in kind of just putting it, in different parts, the actual advice that you can give to dancers. So the first thing you did is, when given a choice to stop or keep going, you chose to keep going. That was number one.
Absolutely.
Number two, you were, because of your pain in the joint, you were pushed out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone was the right side.
Out of the limits, yeah.
And you had to go on the left side. So that's the second thing, is not to be afraid to go to your outside your comfort zone. The third is that you didn't have the luxury of trying something 100 times until you get it right. You had to truly think about it before doing it. So think 100 times and do it once. So the economy of movement was your third, the mind.
The focus mind. Today you have all this information, social media. You get stuffed with information, and sometimes I can see that the kids are not really clear what they really want to think and what they think. Yeah. And I think focus, if you put it together on one, then you have to decide in life what you want. You cannot choose 3 times or 4 times. You have to choose once.
So I think the fourth,
especially in our job.
Yeah, in the job of being a professional dancer. Yeah. And I think the fourth thing that truly you learned out of this experience is the patience, because you said it took you 10 years from the point when the injury happened to when you opened with Susan Jaffe at the Metropolitan Opera. So and that 10-year journey, you had to every day to re-choose, to recommit to this process, painful and frustrating as it was.
Absolutely, but you cannot do it alone. Huh? Yeah. I had a great teacher on my side who always believed. I had very close friends who always pushed me forward. Of course, you sit in a corner and cry, and you think this is the end of the world, because it sounds quite easy, and we put it now in 10 years together. Yeah. In that time, I was a guest artist everywhere. I won all these gold medals, blah blah blah, and at the end, when I put it together, I would have never been this extraordinary dancer I was in my generation without this accident. That is absolutely clear for me.
So in some
ways, it changed
ways,
my life.
The accident, the thing that maybe somebody else might have just been upset about and stopped dancing, that was actually the gift that gave you the career that you had.
Absolutely. I think when you have an obstacle, It can be accident, it can be something else. You have to see it as a challenge and not as an obstacle. It's a challenge. You have to, for yourself, you have to decide if you accept that challenge and you go on. And of course, you need always partners on your side. And as I said, it changed my life and it changed the life of my teacher. We developed a new method. He's still working with this. I'm working at the Zurich Dance Academy with this kind of knowledge. And I think that is a cruising point.
When you work with dancers who are facing doubts or injuries or things that make them want to stop, what is sort of the number one advice that you give to them?
I ask them what they want, what they really, truly want. Because when you choose being a professional dancer, you know that it's a short time, it's a long time to learn it, so you have to be very, very clear what you want. And so I asked him first why you are here, why you are at the school, or why did you choose this profession? Mm-hmm. And when it comes, because I love it, I said, then go on. Yeah. Because I think this is the number one. You have to have that passion, and at the end the will, and of course talent, to succeed.
What do you think dancers today, like what is the biggest challenge that they face in their dance education, and what would be your advice for dealing with it?
The biggest challenge is the versatility, the diversity of all the dance styles we have now, we see now. I just come to the Zurich Dance Academy when I say Steffi Scherzer, our artistic director, and me, when we took over the school, we thought what would be the best curriculum for the students today. Mm-hmm. You know, not as we were dancers today, and we realized that the diversity of dance styles made it necessary to examine all the subjects the school offers. So we built up a 4-column system: classical dance, contemporary dance, pas de deux, and body conditioning, which we designed for the student and for the needs of the industry today. Mm-hmm. And the students face that. And you know, when you're 14, 13, 16, your body is not finished. So you have to deal with the classical ballet, you have to dance with the contemporary style, you have to face theory subject, you have to be able to get a lot of information and stress also. And I think this is the two components. The stress means how much you can gain as a working load, and on the other side that you have to learn so many different styles. But when I come back to it, if you are a classical dancer with a very profound classical base, then you can learn also the other styles. That's my truly belief.
You're also known as one of the best partners of your generation. You've danced with Alessandra Ferri, you've danced with Yeva Yevdokimova, you've danced, well, your wife Steffi Scherzer also was a great partnership that you had. So what other partners did you have?
Well, this is also what we focused in the school. Pas de deux, I think it's a very important subject for both the girls and the boys. I think it's, I come back to the beginning of our talk, passion. I had a great passion for pas de deux. And I was known as a very extroverted dancer with a very strong technique and jumped, etc. But I loved to be behind the ballerina and to support her, and it made me very, very happy if I knew that my partners in front felt comfortable and they could execute their art. And we talk at the end when we are professional dancers about artists, and when we dance Giselle and Swan Lake, you know what it means. So this is for me was the most important thing, to be very, very helpful for the ballerinas.
Because that was actually my question. What is your secret of being a great partner? And you've answered it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, I had a great strength. I could lift very slowly the ladies, and they enjoyed it very much. So in Giselle, especially in Giselle, it was one of my big points, let's say that.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about Zurich Dance Academy. What makes it a special place to study, and what do you think makes your academy unique?
I think it's the offer of diversity in terms of contemporary and classical ballet. We are very, very strong in the classical syllabus, We won all the prizes everywhere, and we are very strong in the contemporary part. And we also win there very often. And you see Michele Esposito in Lausanne or in New York, they win the contemporary and the first prizes in the classical part. And I think this is one of our focus. We truly believe that the diversity which is demanded by the industry needs to be pictured in a education system.
You know, today the dancers are so are put to against an entirely different set of standards. The almost impossible technical standards. Almost, you know, for male dancers, they're required to stretch beyond, you know, what seemed to be humanly possible just a generation ago. What is your advice for dancers in trying to navigate these new demands that they're subjected to?
Well, I always call it a little bit the quadrature of the circle. You know, I think what is very important is that you always think where all the technique comes from, and it comes from a very profound basic structure. That means the education in classical dance needs to be as profound as possible. Then later you can learn everything. I always say to my boys, if you want to do tricks, go to the lake, go outside. Here we learn the profound technique. When you have learned this, you can learn everything.
What do you think would be the number one thing to keep in mind for today's dancers as they train to become professionals?
That they're artists. Very important. You know, you can execute a nice step beautifully. You can look. If you have nothing to say, if you don't have the passion and the musicality, everything in your body, in your mind, you won't be an artist. It's a very short, briefly statement.
Now, the topic of our today's conversation was how you can turn adversity into opportunity. So what would you say for you, as you've made a career out of it, what would be the most important lesson that you have learned on the topic of turning adversity into opportunity? For you, what have you learned?
Believe in yourself, very much. And believe in your very close relatives, in your teachers, and never, never give up.
That's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Today we had the pleasure of talking to Oliver Matz, the director of Zurich Dance Academy. I'm Sergey Gordeev, and we'll see you again on Ask the Expert.